Finance is often perceived as a very difficult technical subject. It does involve a great deal of calculation work, a certain amount of mathematics, although you could pick and choose some courses to avoid the more challenging aspects of that. But I don't think you would necessarily be receiving as good an education in finance. Finance is primarily about learning the tools of finance, and that means a lot of mathematics. However, you have to go beyond the mathematics. The mathematics does not give you an answer. If number crunching could give you an answer, we wouldn't need to turn out finance graduates. We would just program a few computers. The numbers are there to guide decision making. So we hope that it's challenging not just in the numerical sense, but sometimes the concepts can become very difficult, quite deep, and require a lot of work on the part of the students to gain a full understanding. And I think that one of the things I like about Richmond is none of us try and teach to the lowest common denominator. Rather, we set the hurdles high because we know that students will respond better to being challenged and fulfill their own potential. About a third of our students have gone on to do graduate studies, mostly in finance, some in some other areas like public administration. Then about a third go into family businesses, and the other third tend to go into jobs in the corporate sector, predominantly in finance, in the financial system, but also often in corporate finance for large businesses. And I've got to say that I think they stand up very well. We are not necessarily the most well-known university, but I would bet my money on any one of our graduates being as good as a graduate from any other university. And I've taught in some very well-known universities in the past. I also know that often they get out in the workplace, they're very successful. One student comes to mind at the moment, has just been accepted at Harvard to do an MBA after 2-3 years work experience. And that's the quality of the students that we tend to be lucky enough to teach, that they do go on, they do make their own success, hopefully on the background that we're able to give them. The student body is diverse, and that gives students a chance to learn from each other. They learn about each other's cultures, each other's backgrounds, and what they do learn is that people from different backgrounds, from different countries, different religions, are not so very different than you might at first think. So one of the great things at Richmond is we do build bridges, we break down barriers between peoples who might otherwise not get along. And I think that's very important. It's part of the learning process, but it's also part of socializing. And in many ways, Richmond is a microcosm of the world. We really do reflect the global village in many ways. The fact that students come from different backgrounds means that sometimes the culture from one group will rub off on another. So there's a great deal of spillover that makes the students that we send down into the world very, very marketable on a global basis. Richmond very much is a reflection of modern globalization. London is very important because in many ways it is the single most important financial center on the planet. Now, some people might think that's New York, but there is a little known to the layperson set of markets called the Euro markets, and they're essentially centered in London, and they're the single biggest markets by volume on the planet. Having said that, London is part of a global financial world, and London's been at the center of that financial world for centuries. So although we try and use London literally as our background, we also try and include London as a hub that links to New York, that links to Geneva, that links to South Africa, and so on. So London's very important. It's a role model for other financial centres. It's halfway between the European model in terms of practice and the US model. So it's a very, very important background to everything we do.